It is time to review the greatest comic book movie of all time, Madam Web. This movie just came out today on Valentine's Day. It stars Dakota Johnson as Cassandra Webb, who is a clairvoyant and can see into the future, and she sees this bad guy, Ezekiel Sims, and he wants to kill 3 young women who end up killing him in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much the story of the movie. Right off the bat, I gotta say, this movie is terrible. Now, I like to structure my movie reviews with pros and then cons, and I was shocked when I was writing notes for this because I could only think of one pro. Out of the whole movie, I liked one thing, and that pro was these scenes where she sees something bad happens in the future, and then she kind of goes back, and then she tries to change those events. I thought it was interesting. I didn't think it was done, like, amazingly or anything, but I thought it was okay. So my one positive isn't even really a positive, it's just something that I thought was alright. Now on to the negatives, because there are a ton. My first negative is the action is terrible and almost non-existent. We don't even get these superhero girls fighting against Ezekiel Sims, which is an absolute cinema sin. Like, how do you have 3 Spider-Women and Cassandra Webb and you don't fight the villain? Like, what? There's also only about 2 minutes of all of the girls wearing their suits, and it is very bad. The suits look bad. It's only in a flashback and a flash forward sequence, so we don't even see them in the actual movie wear the suits and get their powers. Like, they don't even get their powers in the actual movie in present time, which makes no sense again. The villain in Ezekiel Sims was trash. This guy is so one-dimensional, so boring, so one-note, he's just not interesting. His costume looks like ass, his haircut is meh, and the performance by the actor was, not the greatest. And like I just said, the villain's performance wasn't that great. I don't know the actor's name, but I do know some of these actresses, and their performance wasn't that great either. All of their performances feel very phoned in and just not very alive and energetic. Like, it feels like they honestly just were reading the lines on set. Like, almost like they CGI'd out the paper and they were holding it. They were like, yes, Cassie, yes, no, we can't do that. Oh, let's go see Ben. Oh, the spiders in the Amazon right before my mother died. Like, the lines were read so bad. I don't understand. There was no energy or life there. And none of our main characters really felt unique either. There's nothing really that sets them apart. They're all just kind of generic girl, and they all have parent issues, and that's really it. No, there's nothing about them. Like, you could have just said, like, one really likes art, one really likes music, like something so basic like that, and these characters would be unique. The script also sucks really, really bad. Like, this is genuinely terrible writing, and what can we expect? The writers for this movie was the same writers for the Morbius movie, and that movie has a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, so you're kind of expecting to get the same quality when you hire those people, and man, they are consistent, if anything. There is a scene in this movie where Cassie tells the girls, do not leave where you are. I'm not going to spoil it, where they are or any of that, but she's like, don't leave, don't do anything dumb, don't be dumb. And then, I shit you not, Sydney Sweeney's Julia character turns around, the next line, she says, I know Taekwondo. And it's like, awesome, good for you. What the hell does that have to do with anything? And that came out of nowhere. If the other girls had said, like, oh, how are we going to defend ourselves? How are we going to fight Ezekiel Sims? And then she said, oh, well, I know Taekwondo, and it was like a joke. Okay, sure, that works a little bit better. But they didn't ask that. She just turned around and said, I know Taekwondo. And I'm like, that's great. Good for you. The other line that was terrible too, we actually saw in the trailer. It's the guy that's sitting on the train next to Cassie, and he's like, New York City's a whole new level of crazy these days, and he repeats himself because she has one of those clairvoyant moments, and literally nothing is happening. So, like, what is he referring to? Why is New York crazy? She was literally looking at a train and heard that it was, like, loud, and she was like, oh, like, what's going on? And then the guy's just like, New York City is a whole new level of crazy these days, and it's like, what? Like, she looked at a damn train. What's weird about that? What's crazy about that? Why did you even say that? Now we gotta talk about the ambulance scene. Now, this scene was the moment I just leapt up in my chair and was like, what the heck am I watching? So Cassie's driving an ambulance and crashes through a wall and perfectly drives this ambulance in the air to hit Ezekiel Sims midair when underneath her is a car full of the girls, Mary Parker and Ben Parker. She could have killed everybody, but she just magically drove an ambulance through a wall over like 20 cars and only hit Ezekiel Sims. That was the moment I was like, this movie is garbage. The editing and pacing was also very clunky in a lot of scenes, and there was some editing mistakes here and there. And man, like it just didn't flow well. It just didn't feel well. I wasn't engaged with anything at all that was on the screen. It also had no comedy whatsoever, and they were trying to be funny in a few scenes, but it just did not work at all. And a lot of the side characters just were useless, you know? We've got Ben Parker, Uncle Ben, in this movie. He's sorta in it, not that much. He's just a side character that doesn't really do a whole lot. He does mention that he's seeing someone, obviously referring to May, Aunt May, and we never get to see her, though. And then, what's her name? Mary Parker, Peter Parker's mom. They're having a baby shower, and they're about to say Peter as the name because it's like a big secret, and we never get that name reveal. In the entire movie, she never says that her baby's name is going to be Peter, which is just, you know, an absolute tragedy. Like, how do you not even just include that in this film? There was also a scene where the girls start dancing on a table in front of a bunch of teenage boys, and I was like, what? Like, this is a diner. Like, there's adults here, and you're gonna make a fool of yourself like that? Okay, fine, fair enough. But the dudes say nothing. Sydney Sweeney is dancing right in front of you on top of a table, and you do not say a word? Huh? I would be saying a lot of stuff and clapping. But these guys are all just like, and no words are coming out of their mouth, and I'm like, what is going on in this movie? Another thing that was terrible with this film was the flashbacks to Cassie Webb's mom when she was in the Amazon studying spiders in the rainforest right before she died, or whatever that stupid line is. Those flashbacks were genuinely terrible. The acting was terrible, the CGI on some of the stuff was terrible, and like, wow. Once you guys see those flashbacks, you'll know what I'm talking about because the acting is so bad. Like, it honestly felt like a YouTube skit, like something that I could just make for TikTok in like 10 seconds. That's how bad it was. And the ending to this movie, oh my god. Like I said, these people don't even get their powers during the actual movie. And they don't fight Ezekiel Sims at the end. And it's just like, what? Like, you're doing a Spider-Man spin-off and you don't even have a fight scene with the spider people. What is going on? They beat Ezekiel Sims without even having powers. This dude deserved to die. He is the most useless villain of all time. So the end fight was terrible, was very anticlimactic, but it got even worse after that because we got a glimpse at these costumes and oh boy, they do not look good. They honestly look so bad, like it looks worse than CW quality, which is almost impossible to do. But they did it somehow, and Madam Web's final costume, that thing is terrible. And my last negative is the motivation for the villain. It makes no sense. He wants to kill all of the girls because he sees a vision of them killing him in the future, but there's no reason why they do it because the rumored plot for this movie was like a Terminator style thing where he's trying to hunt down the unborn Peter Parker and kill him because he's so important to the Spider-Verse, and for whatever reason Ezekiel wants to kill him and take the power or something, but that plot's not in this movie, so he literally is just killing them just because he sees a vision that they're going to kill him. So, and they don't even know each other, so he could have resolved the whole thing by explaining this to the girls and saying, I'm not actually a bad guy, and he doesn't do anything bad in this movie besides try to kill the girls. So he could have avoided the whole thing just by having a simple conversation with them. And they don't even have their powers in this movie, so it'd be super easy for him to explain this whole thing. This movie is honestly one of the worst movies I've probably ever seen. I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10. It is honestly that bad. I can't think of really any positives at all, which is almost unheard of. Like, most movies at least have a couple things that you like, but this movie had one, and the thing that I liked was like a, you know, it was alright. Not even like a, yes, I love that thing. I don't recommend to watch this movie unless you want to sit down and just roll your eyes and be like, what the hell did I just watch? It should have been a Spider-Verse